The pregnancy test was on the bathroom counter. 2 pink lines. Tracy Davis stared at it, her hands trembling. She had been careful. She had been so careful. But careful was not enough. Not when you were trapped in the world of CHA1. She sat on the edge of the bathtub, her mind racing. She was 32 years old. She had come to Seoul 3 years ago to restore a collection of ancient Korean paintings. She had never intended to stay. She had never intended to fall in love with a monster. But one was not a monster to her. Not at first. He had been charming, attentive, relentless. He had pursued her with the same intensity he applied to everything else in his life. She had resisted for months, but eventually she had surrendered. Now she was pregnant, and she knew, with a certainty that made her stomach turn, that this was not an accident. She heard his footsteps in the hallway. The door opened. One stood there, tall, dark-haired, his face unreadable. "You are pregnant," he said. Not a question. She looked up at him. "How did you know?" "Because I made sure of it." Her blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" He walked toward her, his movement slow, deliberate. He knelt in front of her, taking her hands in his. "I replaced your birth control pills," he said, 6 months ago. "I wanted you to have my child. I wanted to bind you to me in a way that no one could break." She pulled her hands away. "You did what?" "I did what I had to do. You were going to leave me. I saw it in your eyes. I could not let that happen." She stood up, backing away from him. "You trapped me. You trapped me like I was an animal. I trapped you because I love you, because I cannot live without you, because the world I live in is dangerous, and the only way to keep you safe is to make you untouchable. If you are the mother of my child, no one will dare to hurt you." She stared at him, her heart pounding. She wanted to scream. She wanted to hit him. But she also saw something in his eyes that she had never seen before. Fear. He was afraid of losing her. And that fear had driven him to do something unforgivable. Tracy had not always been a prisoner. She had been free once, living in a small apartment in Itaewon, restoring paintings for a local gallery. Her life had been simple, quiet, predictable. Then CHA1 walked into her life. He had come to the gallery to see a painting that was being restored. He was tall, handsome, and exuded a power that filled the room. She had been intimidated at first, but he had been charming, almost gentle. He had asked her out. She had said no. He had asked again, and again, and again. She had finally agreed to coffee, then dinner, then more. Within 6 months, she had moved into his penthouse. She had given up her apartment, her job, her independence. It happened so slowly that she did not notice. The controlling behavior, the isolation from her friends, the constant surveillance. He told her it was for her protection. He told her his enemies would use her to hurt him. She believed him. She loved him. Now, staring at the pregnancy test, she realized how blind she had been. She walked into the living room. One was standing by the window, looking out at the city. He turned when he heard her. "I know you are angry," he said, "but I did what I did because I love you. I will never apologize for that. You manipulated me. You took away my choice. I gave you something better. A family, a future, a reason to stay." She wanted to argue. She wanted to tell him that she would never forgive him, but she was tired, and she was carrying his child. She sat down on the couch, her hand resting on her stomach. "I do not know if I can ever trust you again." "You do not have to trust me. You just have to stay." She looked at him, the man she had loved, the man who had trapped her, and she wondered if she would ever be free. That night, one sat across from her at the dining table. He had prepared her favorite meal, as if food could make up for what he had done. "I want to tell you something," he said. "Something I should have told you a long time ago." She set down her fork. "What?" "Your father." Her heart stopped. What about my father? His death was not an accident. She stared at him. Her father had died in a car crash 5 years ago. She had always believed it was a tragic accident. It was ordered by my former mentor, one continued. He was the head of the Sevenstar Syndicate before me. He had your father killed because he was investigating our operations. He was a good man. He was too close to the truth. Trace's hands were shaking. You knew this? All this time? I did not know at the time. I found out later, and when I did, I killed the man who ordered it. She stood up, knocking over her chair. You killed him. I did it for you. For justice. He took your father from you. I took his life in return. Tracy felt like she could not breathe. The man she had loved, the man she had shared a bed with, had killed someone. Not just anyone. The man who had murdered her father. You should have told me, she said. You should have told me everything. I was afraid you would leave. I am going to leave. She walked out of the room, her hands shaking. She did not know where she would go. She did not care. She just knew she could not stay in the same house as a man who had kept such a secret from her. Tracy locked herself in her bedroom. She sat on the bed, her mind racing. Her father had not died in an accident. He had been murdered, and one had avenged him. She should have felt grateful. Instead, she felt betrayed. She could not stay here. She could not raise a child in a world of violence and secrets. But where would she go? She had no money, no friends, no support. One had isolated her from everyone. She was completely dependent on him. That was when she realized she had been a prisoner all along. She had just been too blind to see it. The next morning, Jwan was gone. He had left a note. I have business. I will be back tonight. We will talk then. Tracy saw her chance. She packed a small bag, taking only essentials. She left her phone behind. She knew he was tracking it. She walked out of the penthouse, past the guards, and into the elevator. No one stopped her. No one questioned her. She walked through the streets of Seoul, anonymous and invisible. She found a small hotel, paid in cash, and checked it under a fake name. She sat on the bed, her hands shaking. She had done it. She had escaped. But she did not feel free. She felt empty. She was pregnant with his child. She was alone in a foreign country, and she had no idea what to do next. One returned to the penthouse to find her gone. His first reaction was rage. His second was fear. He called his men. Find her. Now. His men searched the city. They checked airports, train stations, bus terminals. They questioned informants, bribed officials, called in favors. Nothing. One sat in his empty penthouse, staring at the door. She had left him. She had taken his child and left him. He had never felt so powerless. Tracy spent 3 days in the hotel, barely eating, barely sleeping. She was consumed by anger and grief, but she was also curious. She wanted to know more about her father's death. She wanted to know who had ordered it. She wanted to know why. She had seen files in Jwan's private study. Files he thought she did not know about. She had never looked at them. But now, she wished she had. She left the hotel and made her way to a public library. She used the computers there to research her father's death. She found old news articles, police reports, witness statements. It was not an accident. The car had been tampered with. The driver had been paid off. It was a hit. And the man who ordered it was a man named Kang Sung-ho, the former head of the Sevenstar Syndicate, Jwan's former mentor. She printed the articles and sat in the corner of the library, reading them over and over. Her father had been investigating the syndicate. He had gotten too close. They had killed him, and Jwan had killed the man who ordered it. She did not know how to feel. Jwan had avenged her father, but he had also lied to her. He had kept the truth from her. She was still angry, but she was also starting to understand. The world one lived in was not black and white. It was shades of gray, and she was beginning to see that he was not just a monster. He was a man who had done terrible things for what he believed was right. Tracy stayed in the hotel for another week. She thought about Jwan every day. She thought about his confession, his manipulation, his love. She thought about her father, his murder, and the man who had avenged him. She was confused. She was angry. She was also, despite everything, still in love with him. One night, she received a message on her burner phone. It was from Jwan. I know where you are. I am not coming for you. But I need you to know that I am sorry. For everything. I was wrong to trap you. I was wrong to lie to you. But I am not wrong about us. Please come home. She stared at the message. She wanted to ignore it. She wanted to delete it. Instead, she wrote back, I need time. His response was immediate. Take all the time you need. I will wait. Tracy returned to the penthouse 3 weeks later. Jwan was waiting for her. He looked older, thinner, more tired than she remembered. I'm glad you came back, he said. I'm not sure if I'm staying, but I wanted to talk. They sat in the living room, the city lights glittering below them. He told her everything, about his childhood, about the syndicate, about the man who had murdered her father. He was not making excuses. He was simply telling the truth. She listened, and for the first time, she began to understand him. But their reconciliation was interrupted by an explosion. The window shattered. The floor shook. Jwan grabbed her, pulling her to the ground as debris rained down around them. The Snakehead clan, he said. They are here. The Snakehead clan was a syndicate's rival. They had been trying to take over Jwan's territory for years. And now, they had found him. Jwan pulled out a gun and fired at the men who were storming the penthouse. Tracy crawled to the bedroom, where she found a second gun. She had never fired a weapon before, but she had watched Jwan practice. She knew how to aim, how to shoot. When a man appeared in the doorway, she fired. He fell. She looked at Jwan, her hand shaking. He smiled. You are not a prisoner, he said. You are my equal. The attack was repelled, but the threat was not over. The Snakehead clan would not stop until Jwan was dead. We need to fight back, Jwan said. We need to end this. I will help you, Tracy said. He looked at her, surprised. You do not have to. I know, but I want to. They began to plan. They would go after the Snakehead clan's leadership. They would dismantle their operations. They would destroy them from the inside. Tracy was no longer just an art restorer. She was a partner, a strategist, a fighter. The plan was risky. They would lure the Snakehead clan's leader to a meeting, then trap him. Tracy posed as a negotiator. She wore a wire, recorded everything. When the leader arrived, she played a recording of his own men confessing to their crimes. You are finished, she said. The leader lunged at her, but Jwan's men were already there. The trap worked. The leader was arrested. His men were captured. The Snakehead clan was destroyed. Tracy had played a key role in taking down one of the most powerful criminal organizations in Seoul. She was not just a survivor. She was a warrior. But their victory was short-lived. Chief Prosecutor Kang, a corrupt official who had been protecting the syndicate, turned against Jwan. I have evidence that you ordered the attack on the Snakehead clan, Kang said. You are going to prison. You have nothing, Jwan said. I have your wife. Kang had kidnapped Tracy. He was holding her on the Mapo Bridge. Jwan's blood ran cold. If you touch her, you will do nothing, because if you try to save her, I will destroy everything you have built. Jwan knew Kang was right. He could not save Tracy without losing his empire. But he did not care about his empire. He only cared about her. Jwan drove to the Mapo Bridge. Kang was waiting for him, Tracy at gunpoint. Your empire for her life, Kang said. Destroy your digital ledgers. Burn your accounts. Give up everything. Jwan looked at Tracy. Her eyes were terrified, but she was not begging. She was not pleading. She was looking at him with trust. Fine, he said. Take it all. He logged into his accounts and began to delete everything. The ledgers, the bank accounts, the records of every deal he had ever made. Kang watched, smiling. When it was done, Kang released Tracy. Jwan caught her in his arms. You destroyed everything, Kang said. You are nothing now. I have everything, One replied. He pulled out a gun and shot Kang. The corrupt prosecutor fell to the ground. Jwan and Tracy held each other, the city lights reflecting on the water below. They knew they could not stay in Seoul. Jwan was a wanted man. Tracy was his accomplice. They faked their deaths. A car explosion. Bodies burned beyond recognition. They disappeared into the night. 1 year later, they were living on the island of Santorini. Whitewash houses, blue domes, the Aegean Sea stretching to the horizon. Tracy gave birth to a son. They named him Jun-ho, after his father. They ran a small art gallery together. No one knew who they were. No one cared. One had changed. He was no longer the Grim Reaper. He was a father, a husband, a man at peace. Tracy sat on the balcony, watching the sunset. One came up behind her, their son in his arms. I never thought I would have this, he said. What? Peace. Happiness. You. She turned to him. I never thought I would forgive you. And did you? She looked at him, the man who had trapped her, lied to her, but also loved her, protected her, and sacrificed everything for her. Yes, she said. I forgave you a long time ago. He kissed her forehead. The sun dipped below the horizon. The past was gone. The future was theirs.